Your brain is listening. How to stop negative thoughts from controlling your life. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what would happen if someone spoke to you the way you speak to yourself in your own mind? Your brain is listening all the time. Every word, every sentence, every hidden whisper you repeat inside your head is shaping the way your brain functions. Negative thoughts are not harmless, they are powerful. When you tell yourself, I'm not good enough or I'll never succeed, your brain reacts as if those words are commands, creating stress chemicals, raising your heart rate, lowering your motivation. Words are not just sounds, they are signals your brain translates into reality. Your brain listens to every word you think, and that truth is far more powerful than most people realize. Every passing thought, every quiet whisper of doubt, every moment of self criticism is not just floating away into nothingness. Your brain is absorbing it, interpreting it, and turning it into signals that affect how you feel, how you behave, and even how your body responds. When you say to yourself, I can't do this, your brain takes it as a command. Stress chemicals are released, motivation decreases, and your body responds in alignment with failure. But if you tell yourself, I will find a way, the brain reacts differently, releasing a cocktail of chemicals that bring clarity, focus, and energy. Thoughts are not just invisible noise, they are instructions, and your brain is always paying attention. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like fertile soil. Every word you think is a seed you are planting. Some seeds grow into weeds, doubt, anger, fear, while others grow into strong, fruitful trees like confidence, hope, and gratitude. The soil does not choose what to grow. It simply responds to what is planted and nurtured. In the same way, your brain doesn't question whether your thoughts are true. It reacts to them. If you repeat over and over again that you are not enough, the brain wires itself to believe it, and your actions will reflect it. If you begin to feed it empowering thoughts, your brain will also adapt, building new pathways that make confidence and resilience feel more natural. This is why awareness is so critical. Most people let their thoughts run on autopilot, not realizing that those silent messages are writing the script of their lives. By simply noticing your thoughts, you begin to reclaim control. When a negative idea crosses your mind, I always fail. Nobody cares. I'm too late. You can pause and ask, is this absolutely true? Is this helpful? What is another way of looking at this situation? That simple act of challenging the thought stops it from embedding deeper into your brain. Over time, this becomes a habit, and your inner dialogue shifts from destructive to constructive. Your brain also listens to repetition. Whatever you repeat often becomes a belief, whether or not it's factual. This is why affirmations, gratitude practices, and intentional self talk are so effective. When you say daily, I am capable, I am resilient, I can learn, you are not just saying nice words, you are rewiring your brain. Neurons that wire together, which means repeated positive thoughts strengthen the connections that support confidence, focus, and peace. It is equally important to guard what you expose your brain to. The music you listen to, the media you consume, the voices of the people around you all become part of your thought environment. Because your brain is always listening, you must choose wisely. Fill it with messages that lift you, not ones that chain you down. You are in constant conversation with your brain, whether you realize it or not. Every word you think is a signal, a seed, a piece of programming that shapes the way you live. If you want a stronger, calmer, more successful life, it begins with changing the conversation in your head. Your brain is listening. The question is, what story are you telling it? Negative thoughts create real chemical changes in your brain and body. And this fact alone shows why the way you think is not just about mood, it's about your health, your energy, and your entire life. When you think negatively, your brain does not dismiss it as imagination. Instead, it translates those thoughts into biological signals. Worry, fear, self criticism, or hopelessness activate the brain's stress response system. The amygdala sends alarm signals. Cortisol is released and adrenaline begins to flow. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense, and your body prepares as if danger is right in front of you. What started as a thought now becomes a physical reality. Over time, repeated negative thinking keeps this stress system turned on like a switch that never flips off. Constant cortisol in your bloodstream weakens your immune system, making you more vulnerable to illness. It disrupts sleep, which further damages memory, focus, and mood. It even slows the body's ability to heal because the brain is signaling the body to remain in survival mode instead of repair mode. In this way, negativity becomes more than an emotional burden. It becomes a slow erosion of physical well being. The impact is not limited to the body's stress hormones. Negative thoughts also affect neurotransmitters, the chemicals that regulate mood and energy. For example, rumination, which is the constant replaying of negative scenarios in your mind, lowers levels of serotonin and dopamine. These are the chemicals associated with happiness, motivation, and pleasure. When their levels drop, you feel flat, drained, and unmotivated. This is why persistent negativity can feel like being trapped in a cycle. You think negatively, your brain chemistry shifts, and that chemistry makes it even harder to think positively again. On the other hand, what your brain also listens when you shift your inner language. Studies in neuroscience show that replacing negative thoughts with more balanced, constructive ones triggers different pathways. Gratitude, optimism, and self compassion activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps with rational thinking, decision making, and calm reflection. These thoughts lower cortisol and release chemicals that bring balance back to the body. In other words, while negativity creates stress chemistry, positivity creates healing chemistry. But awareness is the first step. Many people let negative thoughts pass by unnoticed, unaware of the damage being done beneath the surface. By paying attention, by catching yourself when you think, I'm not good enough, or things will never get better, you can pause and challenge those thoughts. Is this thought completely true? What evidence supports it? What outcome will this thought create in my life if I keep repeating it? That reflection interrupts the automatic release of stress chemicals, giving your brain a chance to rewire. The human brain is plastic, it can change. Every time you replace a negative thought with a constructive one, you are literally reshaping the chemistry and the wiring of your brain. The message is clear: negativity is not harmless. It creates real changes both in your brain and your body, but you are not powerless. By becoming mindful of your thoughts and by choosing better ones, you can shift your chemistry, strengthen your health, and create a mind that works for you instead of against you. Naming your thoughts gives you power to challenge them because when you identify what is happening in your mind, you create space between yourself and the thought. Most people live with a constant stream of mental chatter without realizing that these thoughts are not always facts. They are often habits, stories, or distortions. When you are unaware, the thought has power over you. It feels like truth. But the moment you give it a name, you take back some control. If you can label a thought as worry, doubt, fear, or self criticism, you step into the role of observer instead of victim. This shift allows you to see the thought for what it really is, a passing mental event, not an unchangeable reality. For example, when you tell yourself, I always fail. That thought can feel overwhelming. But if you pause and say, that's a thought of self doubt, it loses some of its weight. By naming it, you are no longer blindly agreeing with it. You are confronting it. You can then ask, is this absolutely true? Is this helpful? Is there evidence to support this thought? Often the answer is no. The thought is simply a story your brain has been repeating. By calling it out, you prevent it from silently shaping your emotions and behavior. This practice is especially powerful with what psychologists call automatic negative thoughts, or ANTs. These are repetitive, often irrational thought sets that creep in quickly and without effort. I'm not good enough. People don't like me. This will never work. Left unchecked, ants multiply and take over your mental space. But by naming them, by saying that's an all, or nothing thought, or that's a fortune telling thought, you shine a light on them, just as insects scatter when the light is turned on. Negative thoughts lose their grip when exposed. Naming your thoughts also helps regulate your emotions. When you identify a thought as anger, jealousy, or fear, you bring it from the reactive part of the brain to the rational part. Neuroscience shows that labeling emotions lowers activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for reason and decision making. This means that simply naming a thought or emotion changes the brain's chemistry, calming your body and giving you more control over your response. It is important to remember that thoughts are not commands. They are not always truths. They are suggestions. When you name them, you take away their authority and reclaim the ability to choose how to respond. Over time, this practice creates mental resilience. You stop being carried away by every negative thought and instead become skilled at catching, naming, and challenging them before they can damage your mood, your confidence, or your actions. The simple act of naming your thoughts is like switching on a light in a dark room. It doesn't erase everything instantly, but it gives you clarity. And with clarity comes power, the power to challenge, to reframe, and to choose a better path forward. Small daily practices can rewire your brain toward positivity because your brain is constantly changing in response to what you do and what you focus on and what you repeat. This process is called neuroplasticity, and it means that your thoughts and actions are like sculptors shaping the pathways of your mind. Just as negative habits carve deep grooves that make stress and self doubt automatic, positive habits can carve new grooves that make gratitude, calmness, and hope more natural. The key is consistency, not size. A small practice done every day has far greater power than a dramatic effort done once and abandoned. Take gratitude, for example. Writing down 3 things you are thankful for each day might seem too simple to matter, but each time you do it, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals of happiness and contentment. Over time, your brain starts scanning for the positive automatically because it has been trained to look for what is good instead of what is missing. This is not just about feeling better in the moment. It is about rewiring your brain to notice opportunities, strengths, and blessings rather than problems. Mindfulness is another small but powerful practice. Taking just 5 minutes to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and observe your thoughts without judgment calms the nervous system and strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus and decision making. By practicing mindfulness daily, you train your brain to pause before reacting, to find clarity in the midst of stress, and to anchor yourself in the present instead of being dragged by worries about the future or regrets from the past. Movement is also a daily practice that shifts the brain toward positivity. A short walk, a few minutes of stretching, or any form of physical activity releases endorphins that boost mood and energy. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, supports memory and learning, and lowers stress hormones like cortisol. You don't need hours in the gym. Even 10 minutes of movement a day begins to create lasting chemical changes in the brain that support optimism and resilience. Even the way you speak to yourself each day is a practice that rewires the brain. Replacing automatic negative thoughts with constructive affirmations creates new patterns. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, you begin saying, I am capable of finding a solution. Each time you repeat this, your brain strengthens the connection associated with confidence and weakens the pathway of self doubt. Over time, the new pathway becomes the default response. What makes small practices so powerful is not their size, but their repetition. The brain learns through frequency, not intensity, just like drops of water that slowly carve stone. Small daily actions carve the mind into something new. Positivity is not an accident or a personality trait. It is a result of training. By practicing gratitude, mindfulness, movement, and constructive self-talk consistently, you teach your brain to lean toward the light, even in difficult times. And as those practices compound, positivity becomes not just a choice, but a natural state of being. What you feed your brain, thoughts, images, habits, shapes your future, because your mind is like soil that produces whatever is planted in it. Every day you are sowing seeds through what you watch, what you listen to, what you repeatedly think about, and the habits you practice. The brain does not ignore these inputs. It absorbs them, wires them into pathways, and allows them to guide your choices and behavior. Over time, those small influences accumulate and become the foundation of who you are becoming. If you constantly feed your brain negativity, fearful news, toxic conversations, self-criticism, or images that stir insecurity, your brain learns to expect danger, to anticipate failure, and to live in stress mode. This chronic stress weakens focus, drains energy, and even harms physical health. When the brain is stuck in a cycle of negative input, the future it creates will reflect that negativity, missed opportunities, damaged confidence, and patterns of self-sabotage. The future does not just happen, it is built out of the bricks of today's inputs. But the opposite is also true. When you deliberately feed your brain uplifting thoughts, constructive information, positive images, and empowering habits, you create a very different outcome. If you start each morning with gratitude instead of complaints, your brain begins the day by scanning for what is good rather than what is wrong. If you feed your mind with books, podcasts, and conversations that challenge and inspire you, your brain strengthens pathways of curiosity, learning, and growth. Over time, you see opportunities where others see obstacles, and you act with confidence because your brain has been trained to expect growth instead of decline. Habits are the most powerful food for the brain because they repeat daily. A single choice may not change you, but repeated choices form grooves in the brain that make behavior automatic. If your daily habits involve constant scrolling, junk food, and procrastination, your brain is wiring itself for distraction, cravings, and delay. But if your habits include movement, focus, reflection, and nourishing food, your brain is wiring itself for clarity, energy, and resilience. Each small routine becomes a vote for the kind of future you are building. Even if images matter more than most people realize, the brain thinks in pictures, not just words. The images you see regularly create mental blueprints. If your environment is cluttered with chaos, your brain mirrors that confusion. If you surround yourself with images of health, success, peace, and progress, your brain begins to associate itself with those outcomes and motivates you to pursue them. Visualization is not fantasy, it is rehearsal. By repeatedly feeding your brain images of where you want to go, you prime your nervous system to act in alignment with that vision. Your future is not a mystery waiting to unfold. It is a reflection of what you are feeding your brain today. Every thought, every habit, every image is either building the future you desire or the future you dread. If you want a future filled with peace, clarity, and success, begin now by carefully choosing what you allow into your mind. Your brain is always listening, always absorbing, and always shaping your tomorrow. You are not stuck with the brain. You can change it through intentional choices. For a long time, people believed the brain was fixed, that once you reached adulthood, its wiring and function were set in stone. But neuroscience has proven the opposite. The brain is highly adaptable. It rewires itself based on the choices you make, the habits you practice, and the environment you live in. Every thought, every action, every pattern of behavior strengthens certain neural pathways while weakening others. This means your current brain is simply a reflection of your past choices, not a permanent limitation. And it also means you have the power to shape a better one starting today. Think about how often people define themselves by labels. I have a bad memory. I'm always anxious. I can't focus, or that's just how I am. These statements feel final, but they are really just descriptions of a brain that has been wired in a certain way through repeated behaviors. Poor sleep, chronic stress, negative thinking, or unhealthy diets can weaken the brain over time. Yet none of these patterns are unchangeable. With new inputs, better sleep routines, healthier food, daily movement, and mindful thinking, the brain can literally grow new connections, heal damaged areas, and become sharper and stronger. Intentional choices start with awareness. If you notice that your mind often drifts into negativity, you can practice gratitude daily and train your brain to scan for what's good instead of what's wrong. If you realize that stress is your constant companion, you can begin practicing breathing exercises or meditation to calm the overactive circuits that keep your body in fight or flight mode. These small, repeated decisions don't just change your mood in the moment, they alter the chemistry and structure of your brain, making peace and resilience more natural over time. Physical habits have just as much power. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients that improve memory and focus. Healthy fats, proteins, and micronutrients from whole foods fuel brain cells and stabilize mood. Adequate sleep clears away toxins in the brain and strengthens memory. None of these benefits come from chance. They result from intentional choices made daily. By deciding to care for your body, you are also reshaping your brain for the better. What's most encouraging is that this change is available at any stage of life. Whether you are young and distracted or older and feeling decline, neuroplasticity remains your ally. The brain never stops learning, never stops adapting. The only real limitation is whether you choose to use this gift or ignore it. Every day, you are either wiring your brain toward clarity, focus, and resilience, or reinforcing patterns of stress, forgetfulness, and negativity. The truth is liberating. You are not stuck. You don't have to live trapped by the brain you currently experience. Through conscious, intentional choices, you can rebuild your brain into a healthier, sharper, more positive version of itself. Your brain is listening, always adapting, always changing. The power to shape it is already in your hands.